Is it worth upgrading to the brand new Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K Pro? And if you do upgrade, do you still need to rig it out to make it usable? Let's find out. If you're like me and you already own the Pocket 6K, you're probably really wondering if you should upgrade to the Pro. Well, I would say that depends. If your 6K is already fully rigged out with a V-mount battery, external monitor, matte box, ND filters, all those sort of things, I would say that it may not be worth upgrading to the Pro, because what the Pro has done has packed a ton of that right into the body so you don't have to buy all those accessories. So in my opinion, if you already own the 6K and all the accessories to go along with it, you could probably hold off on the upgrade. Unless you just love the latest and greatest, then definitely go for it. Now, if you don't own either of these cameras yet, I would say definitely go with the 6K Pro, because you're actually gonna save money in the long run because you need a lot less accessories to shoot. All right, now that we have the buying decision out of the way, let's talk about all the new and wonderful things in the 6K Pro. I've already mentioned a few of them, but for me, the biggest one is this tilt-out screen. I mean, this is a huge game changer. Because here's the deal, Blackmagic gave us these huge 5-inch screens that make it easy to see what you're shooting, make sure everything's in focus and exposed right. But when it's locked to the back of the camera, you can't always see it. So you end up having to buy an external monitor anyways. But with this, I really think you can do all of your shooting without an external monitor, because now I can see the screen no matter which way I'm shooting. I can look down on it, I can look up on it, whatever it is, wherever the camera's mounted or however it is on a gimbal, I can always see my screen. A lot of people aren't talking about this, but 1500 nits is very bright. It's brighter than my Ninja V and it's brighter than my Small HD Focus. So yes, I think this is a very usable monitor and you can save the money and not have to buy an external one. The next biggest thing for me is, of course, the built-in internal ND filters. I mean, you just can't find another camera in this price range that has ND filters built in, so this is huge. Turning on the ND filters is as easy as hitting this plus button, and you have 2, 4, and 6 stops of ND, and that's plenty enough, I've found, to shoot at f2.8 out in bright, sunny daylight conditions. The ND filters do have IR cut built into them, and I haven't noticed any major amounts of IR pollution, but if you have any issues with it, you can of course add another IR filter. Now, one thing I do wish Blackmagic had done was make them electronic variable ND filters so you could dial in the exact amount of ND you want to use instead of just having 2, 4, and 6 stops of ND available to you. But who knows, maybe that'll come out in the next model. Another new thing is of course the optional EVF. Now for me personally, I don't typically shoot with EVFs very often, but if it's really bright sunny conditions, it's nice to be able to look in there and get your exposure dialed in perfectly and get the perfect focus. I know a lot of people really rely on them, but for me, it's not personally something that I would buy. If I was getting the 6K Pro, I don't think I would spend the $500 on it, but it may be something that you want to do. It's of course really easy to install and remove. You can just unscrew it with your finger and then pull it off the top here, and you can put on the little cap that comes with it. I'm sure you've heard that they're now using Sony NP-F batteries and it's supposed to be better battery life, but I've got to be honest, I really don't see any significant battery performance improvement here over the old Canon LP-E6 batteries. And for me personally, I still think that you have to use an external V-mount battery to really make these cameras usable, unless you're just plugging them directly into an outlet. A couple other changes worth mentioning, they now have dual mini XLRs, so if you need to mic up 2 people, that's really nice to have. They've also added another quarter 20 here on the bottom, so you have 2 and your quick release plates are not going to spin at all. Now before we rig this camera out with a cage and a V-mount battery and everything like that, I do want to show you the optional battery grip here. So something awesome that Blackmagic has done is made it possible to add 2 more Sony NP-F batteries, and then you have the third one that still gets left inside of the camera because it makes this connection here with these little pins, and you can just screw this right on. But here's what I will say, once you add the battery grip to this thing becomes enormous. One, it's super tall, so you can't set it down and have it actually stand up straight. It just wants to fall forward. There's really no great options for a cage that fits with a battery grip on there, and you're definitely not gonna get this thing to balance on a gimbal. So for me personally, it's not something that I would run with, but it is a nice option if you need it. All right, as promised, let's rig this thing out now, and what we're gonna be using is the professional accessory kit from SmallRig. The first thing, of course, is a full cage. Now on the top of the cage, I've already added a piece of NATO rail that comes with the kit. So let's get the top handle on here. This is probably the most beautiful top handle that I've ever seen from SmallRig. I love the combination of metal and wood here, and it is a NATO clamp, so it's really easy to take on and off without any tools. The top handle has dozens of 1/4-20 threads and 3/8 threads, so you can mount whatever else you want on it. And it's really cool because you can actually flip around the handle really easily here and tighten it back down into place if you want the handle more out in front. It also has a cold shoe mount on one side, and then on the other side it has a relocating pin, so you could throw an external monitor on there if you wanted to. Next, let's get the side grip on there, and this is a really nice wooden handle. I absolutely love the design of it, and it feels really comfortable in the hand. It's also NATO clamp, so it's extremely easy to take on and off, and on the left side here, built into the cage, is NATO rail, so it's really easy to just slide on and tighten down. All right, there we go. Now you can get a really nice, comfortable grip on it and get really steady shots because this camera doesn't have any image stabilization built into it. And of course, you can get another angle with the top handle here. One of my favorite features of this cage is the built-in SSD slot here on the bottom. So if you're using the Samsung T5 SSDs like I am, it's really easy to just slide it into place here, and then you tighten it down here on the bottom with an Allen key. And this is the only thing that I think is a bit of a bummer. I wish it had a little knob or something so you didn't have to use an Allen key to get it out. Because for me, I know that I take this drive out pretty frequently to connect it to my computer. So you have to keep this Allen key handy. And unfortunately, it's not the same size as the Allen key that's built into the cage or the Allen key that's built into the top handle up here. So it's just another one that you need for your rig. It also comes with a cable clamp so it doesn't come unplugged while you're filming. So let's get that on. And to keep your USB-C and HDMI cables from unplugging, you have another clamp here that just finger tightens into place with 1/4-20 threads. And we'll do a little bit of cable management here in a minute once I get the V-mount battery added. Something really unique and cool about this cage is you can actually turn it into a half cage. There's threads here on the top and on the bottom that you can just unscrew and remove this side piece. So if you want your cage to be lighter or less bulky, you can just quickly take this piece off. There are two other accessories that actually come with the kit. One of them is a screen protector for the back LCD, and then you have this really nice leather sun hood that just Velcros on. This is really cool actually because it makes this screen very usable out in bright sunlight, on top of the 1500 nits brightness you already get. So check this thing out. You can of course angle it any which way that you want, straight up and down. You can angle it, down this way, or you can press it completely up against the camera body and it really doesn't interfere with it at all. This thing fits like a glove and really makes this camera come together nicely. So those are all the parts that come with the accessory kit for the 6K Pro, and I think it makes a pretty awesome rig right out of the box. But of course, there's still one thing we gotta add, and that's the V-mount battery. Really, you've gotta have it to work with this camera. So let's get that put together. So let's go ahead and add this 15mm base plate also from SmallRig to the bottom. Now I'm going to add a Manfrotto quick release plate to the bottom of this so we can easily throw it onto a tripod. Now we're going to add this hinge with 15mm rods that I've also screwed a little SmallRig V-mount adapter to. And this just slides right into the back of the base plate here. All right, now it's ready for a V-mount battery, so I'm gonna grab this small 99 watt-hour V-mount battery and throw it on. And finally, let's get a D-tap cable plugged in to actually power the camera. And there we go, now it's running off of the V-mount battery, so we don't have to worry about bad battery life anymore. And yes, the screen can still tilt out. It is a little bit limited with it being this close, But if you have any issue with that, you can simply just rotate this battery back a little bit here, and then you can of course tilt the screen even more. Of course, you can get the V-mount battery back even further if you use full 15mm rods. I just like how small and compact this little hinge is, and you can of course get this thing to drop even further if you need to, so you can tilt the screen wherever you want to. So there we go, the new 6K Pro fully rigged out just how I would have it if I was gonna go out and shoot something today. I absolutely love this rig and I love this camera. Honestly, the footage looks pretty much the same because it's using the exact same sensor as the 6K and the same color science as well. So in the end, do I think it's worth upgrading to the 6K Pro? Yes, I think it is, but of course it depends on your own situation. And should you rig it out? Heck yeah, you should. I love rigging out my cameras. It makes them so much more usable, and I definitely think you need it for that longer battery life. I do want to say a special thanks to the team over at Blackmagic for sending this camera out for review. They didn't pay me to say any of this. And also a special thanks to SmallRig for sending out this cage. It's awesome. And again, they didn't pay me to say any of this. All right, guys, if you want to see more videos like this, hit subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.